Welcome back. Derek Moundsey here. Thanks for joining me for part 2 of the Linkage Grid Explained series. As you'll remember in part 1, we spent a few minutes explaining the linkage grid and the purpose and the why behind it, as well as providing an example to further demonstrate how the linkage grid is used. We ended that session talking about the accountability portion of the linkage grid and how we'll use the validation matrix to update our supervisors each month on our progress towards our linkage grid completion. So during the next 5 to 6 minutes, we'll walk you through that process of updating your linkage grid in the validation matrix. In order to do this well, we'll be jumping back and forth between the linkage grid, as shown on this slide, and the validation matrix to show you how you would go about updating your linkage grid, updating your validation matrix prior to your monthly meeting. So we'll get out of the PowerPoint here and we'll jump into the LEM. Create a little bit more space, so when we refer back here, it's a little bigger slide. Alright, so we'll go down to the bottom here, pull up our LEM, sgsuite.com/Hancock Regional, and we'll log in. You can see I'm on my home page here, the annual evaluation, but I'm going to go to the validation matrix page. So prior to your monthly meeting, you'll walk through all your validation matrix items and provide an update, and then you'll end up pressing meeting prep complete when you're done. For the sake of reference, we're just going to focus on the linkage grid validation matrix item. But this practice could be applied to all of the other items in the validation matrix. So if you look at this item, the name LDI linkage grid compliance. So we're looking at how compliant have you been with the items and the hardwiring checklist, aka the linkage grid that was provided to you at the last LDI. In the description, yes or no, you'll see your answer options down here for each month. Yes or no, are you on track to complete all linkage grid items prior to their respective due dates? If no, explain gap in the notes section. So there's two important items to note in this statement. A, prior to their respective due dates. So if you pull back up the linkage grid, you'll see that each item has a different due date. You'll note that in this one many have the same, but each one could be different. So when you're asking this question prior to your monthly meeting, it's not asking in January after you just got your linkage grid, are all their items in your list done? It's asking, are the ones that are due at this time or prior to this time, are they completed? So if you have those items done prior to their due dates, or you feel that you're on track to complete them, the ones that are forthcoming before their dates are due, then you can simply click yes and you're done. The only time you would click no is if you feel A, that you're not going to be able to get those items done in time prior to their due dates, or B, you've already missed their due dates and you haven't gotten those items done. So in both circumstances, you're going to want to go ahead up here to the notes section, which is the second thing I wanted to note about this statement. You're going to want to go up to this notes section and add a note as to why you were unable to get those items done, and it may be helpful to include what those items were. So if you were unable to get that first item done, which was watch the video, you could just put unable to watch the Studer video, could not get it to work. Plain and simple. Now, you can save that, and if you're done with your meeting, you could do meeting prep complete. So now when you sit down with your supervisor, if you say yes, that's really all you'll need for that conversation, but if you have a no, you now then have a handy note so that when they ask, okay, why is this a no, you say unable to watch that video, cannot get it to work, and then you can go work together to resolve that issue to get that linkage grid item done. So what you'll do is you'll do this for each month through that quarter for that linkage grid. And so obviously in March, depending on when you meet, that'll be the last time that you talk about that specific linkage grid, and that'll reset at that next quarter's LDI when you'll receive a new linkage grid, and you'll continue updating that for the rest of the year. So I hope this was a quick and simple explanation on how you go about updating the linkage grid in the validation matrix. And you'll see that as you get in there and you become more comfortable with it, it really is a helpful tool that'll help you communicate with your supervisor in an efficient and effective manner, whether or not you're on track or need some help in completing your linkage grid prior to their due date, your linkage grid items prior to your due dates. So I hope this was helpful. Have a great day. Thanks.